So this video may be in two parts because my girlfriend just rang me and stopped the video, which is pretty annoying, but it is what it is. Anyway, jokes aside, getting back to what we're talking about, weekly balance. I was on focusing on completing your workout. So again, it just goes back to that extra motivation, extra discipline to go and hit your workouts with some super intensity, add purpose to it. And I'm not just saying that it's for the fact that you're going out the weekend, because again, that's creating negative relationship, but I like to actually look at it as a way of, at the weekend, I can look forward to this social occasion, nice big refeed, replenish, my energy, replenish the muscles, and, by getting the work done through the week, what again, referring to that reward system, that's what I like to kind of relate it to. So, the past 3 points are all really sort of related to each other, but in slightly different ways. And the final thing as well is I see probably a lot of you have practiced this is don't restrict through the week. So I know we've talked about, extra discipline, maybe reducing calories the day before, the day after, but don't restrict because again, it's encouraging that binge mentality. It's encouraging a negative relationship with food, saying that, oh, through the week I'm not allowed any chocolate, any pastries, any this and that, even any alcohol. If you want to have something every single day that you can, just practice moderation. Make sure that you're following that sort of 80-20 rule of whole food diet. 20% do what you want as long as it fits, one, within the calories, and two, it's not over excessive. Then it's going to work, and it's going to work in the long run. It's more, way more sustainable than doing Monday to Friday of being super restrictive to the point that you hate what you're eating, you hate life for 5 days. Gets to Saturday, and it's that sort of living for the weekend, but in a sense of alcohol and food. And you're quickly going to outdo or undo all that hard work from Monday to Friday every single weekend if that's the way you play it. So the next one, setting standards and expectations. Okay. So what I mean by this is, again, it relates to kind of making a plan for the day itself. And of course, I want you to enjoy yourself, but that doesn't mean you are able to, go absolutely overboard and just not give a fuck. I mean, do what you want, but you won't achieve the results that you want to achieve, not only in your physique, not only in your fitness, but in life, because it's going to get in the way. I know way too many people where they allow this to happen. Sort of relates back to that binge mentality where they're very restrictive for the week and live for the weekend. And by doing this, setting yourself some standards and expectations, it almost gives you a guide, And I'm not saying you have to be absolutely on point. Of course, there's going to be times where you may be enjoying yourself. One of your friends has kind of said, you want to stay a bit out late. It might even be you that suggests going for another drink. That's fine. But as long as you've not sort of just, thrown the towel in and thought, fuck it, I'm going to stay out till 6 a.m., get off my head on all sorts, more excessive than alcohol, then, you've got to think about that as well. So relating to alcohol, especially whilst you are in, particularly you guys in a fat loss phase, you've got to set that limit because alcohol calories can get very excessive very quickly, very easily. So again, set that max alcohol limit and start to think as well about what are maybe the better lower calorie sources of alcohol that you can stick to. A good way of doing this, two good methods I've found of doing this is if you like your beer like me and you want to stay within the social setting, you don't want to feel like you have to bypass rounds or say no to your friends as often. Instead of getting full pints, get half pints. That's a very simple measure. That way you can sort of stay within the rounds. Another way is, or a method, is called zebra striping. What that means is every other drink that you get is a non-alcoholic one. So you can again still stay in the rounds, but last round you got half a pint of Guinness. Next round you get, a glass of Diet Coke. It might be a bit of a change at first, okay? And it might seem a little bit boring, but you've got to make some compromises. Otherwise, if you don't make a change, then no changes are going to occur. A really good thing I like to do as well is plan an early activity the following day that you need to be coherent for, you need to be fresh for. The easiest thing to do is go to, a morning class at the gym, whether it's CrossFit, whether it's high rocks based, something that that if you were hungover, it would just be near enough impossible or incredibly difficult to do. If you've got family, if you've got kids, that's even easier. Tell your kids, plan something with them early morning. And if that's not enough motivation for you, again, that's something then you really have to look at. Do I have a problem? Do I have an issue? But if you plan something to do with your kids early morning, take them swimming, take them to the park, go on a nice family walk, go out for breakfast, something that you need to be up and fresh for, it's going to be a huge, huge deterrent for going excessive and, even staying up too late. Another thing is reflect on past events. We've all got enough experience of going out now where we've had good nights and bad nights. Typically, the bad nights have happened because we've had too much alcohol, we've stayed out too late, we can't remember, we've got ourselves into trouble. And then you've got to find out, what emotions or try and relate them to what emotions that actually caused or kind of provoked. And then think of the good times that you've had, the times with your family. Yes, some of those times are going to be where you have maybe drank a little bit too much, but think about how you managed that in a better way, or think about what you did the next day. Because a lot of us seem to, when it comes to going out, we forget about, the times that we didn't actually enjoy that much. And, you know, I want to say 80 to 90% of the time it is down to going overboard, being too excessive, staying out too late, and that more enough happens or kind of brings about things like arguing with friends, getting into trouble, feeling like crap the next day, etc., etc. So, yeah, think about past events, and I'm only kind of using this anecdotally from my own experience and working with some of you guys that have been with me for a long time, where you have regretted what you've done the night before because it's made you feel like shit, etc. And it's a really powerful tool to hold on to. If you can get those emotions and think about them again, then yeah, consider that as you sort of make your decisions and map out your day. Making healthy choices. So this again relates to the day itself, and I'm gonna probably relate it more to the food side of things because that's where again a lot of us sort of seem to slip up a little bit. And if you are to understand a little bit better how you can still go out and socialize and do exactly what you want to do with your friends and still make good choices at the end of the day. You don't have to fall short to the temptations. You don't have to consider a social as, let's say, a naughty occasion or something that is off plan, quote unquote. So going into it, if you have influence over what the activity is going to be, I mean, you're always going to have influence unless it's attending someone's wedding or something. Try and encourage something that is active, or at least include something active like a hike. Or you could, if you in the city, instead of getting a taxi everywhere, walk from station to station. Maybe some sort of sporting activity. Loads of these bars nowadays, especially, in the more developed countries, and most of you guys are in places like London, Manchester, the US, etc. A lot of these bars now have activities where you're up on your feet and, whether it's cricket related, darts, football, good fun. And then dancing, cool dancing later on. I know a lot of you guys like to throw some shape, especially after a few beers of Dutch courage. And what I'm trying to kind of get at is don't just sit around a table for 4 or 5 hours straight drinking, 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 because it's only going to lead to negative events and laziness at the end of the day. When it comes to the food, preview the menu. As I say, always say, preparation's key. And if you sort of preempt what you might want, one, if you want to be a little bit more indulgent, then you can sort of plan ahead, the day or day before, and bank those calories a little bit more. But at the same time, if you see something on there, and it falls within, let's say, the green category, something like a grilled protein skewer with, grilled veggies, whole food based, etc., then great, go for that. Some red flags, which I would always say, especially again, guys in the fat loss phase, just try and avoid, for the majority, anything fried, creamy sauces, desserts, and processed foods. If it does come with a sauce, easy tactic, ask for it on the side rather than allowing them to lather it all over the plate. Same with oils, typically olive oils and things like that, because you can get, think you're getting a really, nutritious, healthy meal, but it may be excessive in calories because the oils that have been either dressed in it or that it's actually been cooked in. So again, these little tactics where you can, ask the waiter or the chef for some preferences and to help out there. Tactics to limit and minimize alcohol, as I've already discussed, the zebra stripe method, half pints, lower calorie alcohols, so things like gin or vodka with a zero sugar mixer. They're all good strategies for success as well. And what I'd say is just make a plan and stick to it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to nail the plan absolutely spot on. You might go a little bit over in some areas, but as long as you have a guide and, like I say, prep beforehand, I can guarantee that if you went into it blind and just thought, I'm just going to let the night kind of take away, especially for you guys who just joined the program, then it's only going to end one way. And that way is, not the right way for what it is that you want to achieve at the end of the day. Nearly there. So practicing balance. That, as I said, this is slightly different. Practicing balance means I'm trying to basically say don't avoid these social occasions. Don't restrict and isolate yourself and say no to everything. This is something, again, anecdotal experience. I've done it in the past. I've worked with people that have done it in the past. Where's the enjoyment in that? Why are you living life? What, to look a little bit leaner, but then you don't have friends to go and do fun things with? What's the point? You've got to find that balance. So don't, again, restrict yourself, and that's all the way throughout the week. Don't restrict yourself for socials. Maybe if you're coming into a very busy social period, you can say no to things that you don't want to do. Like, if someone's trying to plan 3 or 4 or 5 different things within your week, you might not be able to do it, and that's fine. But don't restrict yourself from seeing friends regularly. As I mentioned, include your treats throughout the week. Practice moderation. So the more you actually, attend these socials, the more you sort of practice this balance and understanding of how to manage them in a sensible way, then the more equipped and easier it's going to get over time. Like anything, practice makes perfect. And the more experience that you gain, especially whilst you're on the program with me and the help that you can get from myself and the rest of the guys on here, the better that you're going to manage things moving forward. And a lot of you that I'm probably speaking to now that have worked with me for a longer time, I don't even worry about you going out social. You don't worry about going on a social. I might ask you about it just to kind of get clarity, but it's, 9 times out of 10, you've managed it pretty much bang on and you've still had a really good time in doing it. Again, we're going to slip up. We're going to have those days, those nights where we let the atmosphere get the better of us. We say yes to a few too many things. We give in to temptation. That's fine. One day is not going to influence and dictate the rest of your life, the rest of your health and fitness journey. As long as you don't let it put you down and overspill into days and days and days and days, because that's what a lot of people do, and that's when they throw in the towel. Just look to sort of be, let's say, balance the next day, bounce back, do the foundational things, you know, be active, go back to whole food based diet, get some good sleep the following night, and then reset yourself. It might take 24 to 48 hours, but as long as, like I say, you're not throwing that towel in and ordering Domino's the next way and then feeling like shit on the Monday because you're waking up late or waking up groggy, which leads to more decision making and more decision making woes and more cravings coming on, and that day turns into a week, turns into a month. Hey, we're back to square one again. That's what we want to avoid. Don't be too harsh on yourself as well. Human at the end of the day, like it's not the end of the world, okay? And then the final thing, so this is something really, really interesting, something you may have not really considered: peer pressure. Now, I don't mean peer pressure in the sense where, you're at school and, you've got bullies around you trying to get you to maybe smoke your first cigarette, etc. This is more related to friends, to family, and they don't do it directly to sabotage you. They don't do it to be mean. It's coming from a place of love. It's coming from a place of them actually wanting you to enjoy yourself. But, you know, a lot of the time, these things that they're trying to encourage you to do don't align with your goals, don't align with what you're trying to achieve. So, firstly, communicate clearly. Tell them, if you haven't already, what journey you're on, what you're trying to achieve, and what that entails, how that might change your outlook on things like social settings, etc. Friends or drinking buddies. This means basically you can assess whether people are your friends, that you can do things away from drinking or you can actually do things that are not related to drinking, like going on a hike, just spending time talking to each other, going doing different activities. You'll be surprised. I promise you'll be surprised. And something personally, I found out a lot about the people I was spending time with. They were just drinking buddies. And if you want to excel in life, then unfortunately you do have to make sacrifices, and that comes in the form of those around you as well. Respectfully decline anything outside of your plan. So you don't have to, tell them to fuck off. You don't have to be mean about it. Again, this comes with communicating clearly and just say, you know what, George, I'm pretty much done for the day. I've got this on tomorrow morning. I'll have another drink, but I'll just get a Diet Coke, please. And he might ask, oh, go on, why? Is that because I've got this plan tomorrow. I'm on this journey. I've sort of had enough now, and I want to enjoy myself. I don't want to kind of ruin a night by going overboard. And by doing that, okay, you might have that annoying friend who just wants to poke the bear, and they maybe get a little bit too drunk. But that's where you communicate with them, maybe the next day or the next time you have a conversation with them. But remain strong, be your own person, and don't let outside influences kind of make your decisions for you. And finally, as I've just mentioned, bring up any issues of repetition. You might have that one friend, maybe not a friend, maybe a drinking buddy who is always trying to get you to or encourage you to do the wrong thing. Maybe because they want someone to do it with, or maybe they are trying to sabotage you. Maybe they are envious of the things that you're trying to do and don't want to see you succeed. And that, again, is a big teller of the people around you and what they actually mean to you and what they actually bring in terms of benefits to your life. So that's everything. I hope everything all makes sense. I know I've gone over a lot. I could have gone into a lot more detail on things which to avoid doing that, I'll separate into another educational video. But hope you enjoyed it and peace out.